Anne now lived in upstate New York. Her husband and his family owned several well-known and luxurious hotels worldwide, and they were very wealthy. Their house was about 4 stories with 8 bedrooms. The room they had fixed up for Jack and Rose was on the 2nd floor, adjoining to the rooms for their children. The bathroom was down in the hallway, and everything else was downstairs. As soon as Rose entered the house, and she had felt strange, as if she wasn't supposed to be here. Memories of her childhood stay fresh in her mind, growing up in a house just like this one. She even got a telephone for her room, which was rare and expensive. The maids encouraged her sides and called her Madame. Both she and Jack feel uneasy after being away from society for so long. However, the kids liked it. They would explore for hours on end and returning having to find something new. Megan scared Charlie when she talked about a ghost and how it haunted his room. He had refused to sleep alone for the following 2 nights. The Dawsons were very happy to see Anne again, and even happier to see that she was expecting her own baby. She was certainly a woman now, and Rose just had wished that Philip was there to see his first grandchild for himself. When Megan had been born, Phil loved her like if she was his own granddaughter. The Dawsons had decided to stay in New York with Anne and Earl until after the New Year, and when Anne was delighted to be alone over Christmas. Of course, in that time, only time would tell. 20th of December, 1921. Dear Diary, in 2 days I will celebrate my 9th wedding anniversary. 9 years have been amazing. I would have never chosen another path if I had to make a decision all over again. Being here in New York is unusual to say the least. It hasn't changed since the time I have been away. I love the snow on Christmas Day, and the children have never seen snow. When I was a young girl, that was the best part of Christmas. My father would help me build a snowman or just go sledding on the fields. I miss that memory, but it will be something I could create for the kids. We were all going sledding on Christmas Day. Jack has a surprise for our wedding anniversary. Knowing him, it will be something special as it always is. It always is. Anne had offered to take care of the kids for me. She is 7.5 months pregnant and is looking well. She deserved to be happy, and Earl is a good man. Jack and I have decided to head on to Santa Monica on the 3rd of January, with a new year and a new start. We know that we haven't made much of a home for the children, what with the war and such. We have moved around a lot, but we have to settle now. Santa Monica is a place for both love and could call home. The time I spent there in early 1913 were amazing. To wake up beside the sea and take a stroll on the pier, I have decided to pursue my dreams as an actress. The children are in school and Jack had decided not to find a job right away. I am looking forward for the year ahead. In April is 10 years since the Titanic sank. I will forever mourn for the loss of that night, but I will not dwell. Rose Dawson. August 22nd, 1924. No, you can't leave, Thomas. I need you. Rose held out her hands, summoning her love for her. She tossed her newly dyed blonde locks as she turned to face the actor who played Thomas. I can't, Sally. You know that. I can't, that. I love you very much, but I have to go. Tears flowed in from Rose's eyes. With that, Thomas turned and fled out to set the door. A very loud gunshot sounded violently. No! Rose screamed as she fell to the floor. It broke down into heart-wrenching sobs. The red curtain fell on the stage as a loud applause and cheers could be heard. Rose Dawson steadied herself to her feet, just as the actors joined her on stage. Well done tonight, Rosie, a fellow actor commented. I love the new hair. Rose smiled a little. Thank you, Jimmy. She loved the compliments and praises that she received. This was turning out to be quite something. Jimmy was a little younger than her, but she had found him and become a good friend. And he and his wife Maddie were trying so hard to start a family, but were having a rough time lately. The whole cast joined Rose on stage, and the curtain rose to reveal the standing applause and cheers. The audience was amazing, and the theater was packed, and it was the opening night. The atmosphere was overwhelming, and it took Rose quite a while to take all this in. She was almost breathless. This was almost seemed like a dream. Rose bowed, and as they continued to applaud, Rose's eyes had found her husband's in the audience, and he stood there clapping. Her children sat beside him. 11-year-old Megan was clapping so hard she thought her hands would fall off. She was so proud of her mother. This is what she wanted to do when she was old enough, and maybe become even a silent movie star. She had discovered a love for drama and dance. She had been taking ballet lessons for the past year and a half. 5-year-old Charlie, however, could think of better things to do. He yawned and clapped his hands slightly, before letting them drop to his side and sitting back down. He felt his father ruffled his hair, but he still had no interest. Later that evening, "You were wonderful tonight, darling." Jack spoke to Rose as she dressed in her night clothes. "Thank you. It means so much that you were all there and loved it." "Well, Meg and I did. Charlie, on the other hand, a different story." Rose laughed as she knew her son had no interest in the theater. He would rather go fishing or read a good book. He was a very quiet child. Her daughter, however, was showing an early interest. She was a sweet singer, and she was very good at ballet. They were good kids, Rose smiled. In almost in her own world, her heart swollen with pride, Jack climbed onto the bed, and Rose followed, resting her head on his chest, as he gently ran his fingers through her shoulders' length blonde locks. Rose had decided on the change of the image when she had agreed to play the lead part of Sally Winster in the Great War. She had agreed that to let one of the chorus girls dye her hair to a straight, slight blonde, as the script demanded. The play would run for 6 weeks, and she had played various roles since she began working at Harry Baker's theater in Santa Monica. A year before, this was her first lead part. Jack had been nothing but supportive of his wife. Even if she did have a love interest on stage, he knew that she only had eyes for him. They had been married for over 10 years now. Jack gently stroked Rose's hair and took in the scent. She moved her hand across his chest, and she took it in his and kissed it sweetly. His mind ever wandered about that magical day, which was December 22nd of 1922. The early morning breeze was warm, and it tickled her face as she leant back against Jack's body. The sand was warm between her toes. She even wore a thin, white long-sleeve shirt and beige pants. Her brown boots were kicked off, and her hair was plaited onto the right side of her head. She felt a soft kiss on her cheek, and she smiled contentedly. "Isn't it beautiful?" Jack gazed up upon the stunning sunset before them. The sky illuminated brilliant shades of orange, red, and yellow. "It is. I could lay here forever, Jack." Rose giggled slightly. She felt like a young girl again. "All this is ours now, Rose," Jack whispered in her ear and entwined with her fingers. "I love the sunsets, Jack. I remember the first sunset we saw together. You taught me how to fly, like to be free." As Rose thought of the memory, tears pricked in her eyes. "Our first kiss, Rosie." "My first kiss, Jack." Jack frowned at somewhat surprised. This was something that she had never admitted. Rose caught the sight of Jack's face and looked down slightly. "Don't look at me like that, Jack. You're the only man I've ever wanted to be with. I am not ashamed to admit that. I don't need to work my way over to the man for his satisfaction. Just for the love of good man, which I have now and will always will." Then under the brilliant sunset, they had kissed deeply in their 10th wedding anniversary. Throughout the day, they rode the roller coaster, drank beer, walked along the pier, and finally, when the sunset had came, Jack tossed the old man a nickel and loaned his horse. They had rode the horse into the surf into the sunset. Jack admired his beautiful Rose's face, but of course her face, her eyes, smiling with happiness. She had not changed in 10 years, and she was still the same, in fact, probably better. The love that he had for her was indescribable and always would be. Her smile was captivating now, and it was the day they had met. Jack had took a photograph of Rose and sat on their horse, her smiling face, with the roller coaster and pier in the distance. Then under the sparkling stars and moon, they had made love on the beach. Hey, Rose gently shook Jack, disturbing him from his thoughts. Her face was gorgeous without makeup or any hairstylists. This was natural that Rose had fell in love with. Her face looked concerned. Are you alright, darling? Jack nodded, sat himself up on the bed and felt a sudden rush of love and admiration for Rose. Good, I was worried. Don't be. I was just thinking, darling. About what? Rose asked. Jack thought for a moment whenever they should be saying anything. He didn't want to look as a fool. About you, just about how much I love you, about the kids. Our 10th anniversary, that was when we met. That was when we met? Rose inquired. Rarely spoke about their time in their lives. Just how inspired and captivated I was with you. You were this angel you knew. Jack exhaled heavily before continuing. I was feeling all this stuff I never had before. I was crushed when you left me in the gymnasium. Then you came back to me and I knew from that moment, I knew I was in love with you. No boundaries could stop us from being together. Not Ruth, not Cal, nor society, not even death, Rose. Not even death. Rose felt tears alongside of her eyes, and she could tell that all the things that she did back then, a part of her felt still like it was yesterday. I know, Jack. When we made love, I was so nervous. I was so inexperienced. So was I, Rose. But I knew that you were where I wanted, and I could have given anything up for you. I told you I was to get off that ship with you. It may have not been what we expected, but I still did, Jack. Now here we are. You made all that dreams come true. You made me experience things I thought I never existed. You gave me 2 beautiful children, and hopefully soon there'll be more. Rose nodded eagerly. She loved children. Being a mother was the most important role in her life. Her children come first and foremost forever. She wanted more children. Not right now, in a few years. They both wanted a big family, and Jack was a wonderful father. I'm so proud of you, Rosie. Jack cupped her face with his hands. She could feel her roughness from the sketching all these years. You've grown into a confident, independent woman. You're a wonderful actress. You light up that stage. You have a talent, Rose. You're a good mother. You're everything to me. With that, Rose kissed Jack's lips with passion that she had never done before. September 1st, 1926. Dear Diary, I am so tired. The past few months had me in Los Angeles on my actual film set. It was the first moving picture that I have starred in. I saw the finished product just yesterday. I could not believe it was me on screen. The premiere was at the Roosevelt Theater, and stars I have admired for years. They were walking towards me and congratulating me. Nothing in the world could have prepared me for this moment. I feel an intense amount of admiration for people who worked on the picture and made it possible for my dream to be put out right in front of me on a large screen. I feel privileged, and I feel the opportunity to entertain people like this. I play a part as Bessie, a woman who's trying to find her true love. I took that part and I felt as if I was once this woman, attempting to find my way in the world, to find my love. My hair had been blonde for about almost 2 years now. People who once knew called me a friend and they walked past by my street. Don't batter an eye. I think it's just a huge transformation. I like glamour though. No, to be pampered with so much. Having 2 children is like a vacation. I rarely have time to apply makeup for myself. I have such a handful, so just the fact that I have my hair done up and my makeup is applied is like a treat for me. Jack has been sketching for the theater. Earlier this year, he has also did a drawing show for the exhibition in LA. I think he now discovered his dream, to have his own gallery one day. Well, let me tell you that my dream won't be too far away. The children are now in school. Megan attends to ballet classes twice a week, and Charlie goes to a book club. He is so much like his father, I have to blink twice. Jack and I have talked about trying for another baby, but not too soon. I've just begun to live my dream. Rose Dawson. 13-year-old Megan Dawson hummed happily as she walked through back to town from her ballet class. Ballet was her passion. She loved how free she felt when she danced. She loved how people gazed on her, how elegant she looked. She hoped to do it more professionally when she left high school. She was at the top class. She had the grades to go to medical school, but the drama was there where she had her heart lied. Her mother wasn't her inspiration to see her on stage, reciting the lines, dancing freely. She was almost jealous at times. Her dark strawberry blonde curls just fell to her waist, and she skipped up the last bit of steps to her home. Megan loved it here in Santa Monica. Over the summer holidays, the Dawsons had to visit the booths in LA, while Rose filmed her moving picture, Young April. As she entered through the front door, the atmosphere was so familiar, as if it was security blanket onto her. Her parents were always doing some sort of activity or playing with their younger brother. "I'm home," she yelled, placing her bags on the counter as she frowned. "Mom?" she called upstairs, but there was no reply. She wandered around back to the house, where she found her father engrossed in a sketch. This wasn't unusual for her. She was used to it by now. Megan also knew that it was a talent, that she also had a talent for drawing, but she didn't really put too much use. "Hey, kid," Jack smiled. He placed down his drawing materials and squinted in the afternoon sun. "Where's Mom and Charlie?" Maggie looked around, finding an answer to her own question. "They went into town for a few hours. So you have a job in helping me get together some decorations for your brother's birthday party tomorrow." Megan nodded, not really having much interest in this, but she did what her father told her. Together they trimmed up parts of the house, placed a large banner above the door. Charlie had been a little down lately, so Jack hoped the party would cheer up his son. Rose had been away from the children for most of the summer, so she wanted to make it up to them soon. By 7 p.m., some friend of Charlie's began to arrive at the door, wearing their Sunday and best and bearing presents in all shapes and sizes. Megan, too, dressed in her best clothes. She looked into the mirror before wandering around. She wanted to kill time before heading downstairs. It was boring to her. The party was almost stuffy, and the children were most likely upper-class families, and they were all younger than she, so she found them to be immature. Megan crossed her mother and father's bedroom, slowly entering and flickering the lights, and began to rummage through her mother's makeup. Carefully, she applied some lipstick and a lick of mascara. She smiled and finally squirted some perfume before heading downstairs. She felt like a grown-up now. Jack saw his daughter descending upon the stairs and also caught a sight of her lips. His jaw dropped slightly. She looked just like her mother, with her lips and the way she held herself. Everyone seemed to stop and stare when she walked down the stairs. She was a beautiful girl and thought so himself. The party went well and it ended around 9:15 p.m. The children cleared and headed home. When Charlie went to bed soon after, he was tired. The party had certainly did the trick. At 9:30 p.m., the telephone rang and Rose answered. It was her agent. "Megan, make sure you wipe that makeup from your face," Jack ordered. "Why, Daddy?" Megan looked at her face and admired it. "Because you're too young. Your mother didn't want to make her wear makeup until she was 17. And that is still young, very young, darling. Especially when you have a pretty little face like yours." All at that, Megan smiled and Jack cupped Megan's face and kissed her cheek. Megan then skipped up downstairs and was ready for bed. "Jack!" Rose's voice was slow, and it startled Jack. Rose put the phone back on the hook and looked at Jack. They want me to do another picture, Jack. They want me." Rose's face lit up. "They actually asked for me?" Jack immediately picked up Rose and spun her around. Rose then closed her eyes and squealed a little. "I told you you're talented, Rose. I'm so happy for you." Rose's face then turned serious. "It's not just that, Jack." "Then what?" "What?" Jack then sat and summoned Rose beside him. She took a few moments before she spoke. "Well, the kids can't be away from school, Jack. And you can't be away from your job. I don't want to go to LA alone. It doesn't seem feasible." "How long is it for?" Jack asked. "A month. It's a month to film. And of course there's a promotion. I do love my job, but it's such hard work. And when we're trying for another baby." Dad, we can go and hold Rosie. Darling, this is about We had our children. They're old enough to understand. I'm here for them, Rose. Always. So you go to Los Angeles. It's just a month. Don't give up on your dream, Rose. You love it. Rose nodded. Taking the information, she wrung her hands around and then placed her head in her hands. I will miss you all terribly, Rose sighed. We will miss you too, but you're always back here waiting. Rose nodded. All right, I'll go. October 11th, 1926. Dear Diary, I feel so terribly alone without my family. It's the first time in a long time I've been gone alone at night. I love it here. To see Shelley and Martin is good. They have another child now, a little girl named Annie Marie, and they say she's a pretty understatement. She's just like her mother. Yesterday I spent 8 hours at a photo studio while professional photographers took my photograph over and over. The fact that all of this is a fuss over me, I will never be used to. I have been sat on here for about 2 weeks. Jack's birthday's on the 5th of October, and all I could do was telephone him to wish him a good day. My children sent me a postcard with the pier lit up at night and wished me good luck and to say they miss me. I cried for a while after that. It can be lonely up here, but I love my job to say the least. This part I play is something very different to anything I have ever done on or off stage. I play Elena in the picture of the Temptress, and my character is a woman who has many lovers, including a husband. When she breaks off of their hearts, she is destroyed by true love. A dark story and something I hasn't been put into picture before. I've taken a train home on the 28th of October, which is something I'm looking forward to. I love it here and met wonderful people, but get me home, get me to fly to my family. Rose Dawson.